So we have finally reached the day after months of an announcement and then a delay, and then an announcement and then a delay, and the market goes up and the market goes down and the market goes up and the market goes down again. We've reached the day where the tariffs are in effect. This is a day that Donald Trump has been thinking about for a long, long time. Let's just flash back a little bit to the time that Donald Trump talked to Oprah Winfrey about this.
I can't promise you everything, but I can tell you one thing. This country would make one hell of a lot of money from those people that for 25 years have taken advantage.
That was the answer he gave when he was asked in 1988, what would you do if you were elected president of the United States? And here we are today. Governor Walker, I'm not sure I ever imagined that it would be Republicans who would be doing this. And if you've been reading some of the banners that have been on CNN all day, it's highest tariffs since the Great Depression, right? That lesson for Smoot-Hawley had been learned the hard way. A lot of people thought. Now we're here. What view are you holding as someone who previously ran for president as a Republican about whether the alarm over this from some free market corners was justified or whether it's been a false alarm?
Well, I'm all for free trade. I want that. I think the president does. He's a global businessman. He'd like to get as close to zero when it comes to tariffs as possible. But as you saw from
That's
that
kind of hard to believe, though.
Well, no. I disagree, because you look back to why he said that. I think back to the 80s, he was pointing out that American workers and the American employers were getting screwed. Other countries talk all about American tariffs, but we largely ignore the fact other countries have been doing this for decades. Ronald Reagan, the king of free trade out there, punched Japan in the face with 100% tariffs on electronic goods when they screwed up one of their trade agreements. So you can be for free trade like Reagan was and still push this. In this case, he's trying to level the playing field. I'm going to ask the Treasury Secretary more about this. We actually have a conference about an hour and a half with our group, Young America's Foundation. College students want to hear about it like everybody else.
Yeah. Phil, what's your take on it?
You ask him who's going to be the Fed chair. We're still waiting for that.
Yeah, right.
Make us some news, Governor.
Yeah, right.
Look, I think what's fascinating about this is the Trump administration, and I talked to Stephen Myron about this, it's actually quite perfect that Myron, on the day that these tariffs become actually set into place, is picked for this position. I talked to Myron about this last week. They are justifiably spiking the football against those who said everything was going to collapse. Inflation was going to skyrocket. Our trading partners would immediately fight back, fire back. That hasn't happened, with the exception, for the most part, of China. Inflation, if you look at the underlying data, there's a lot of reasons. I think there's warning signs and some concerns. A lot of companies were holding off raising prices as they waited to see where the tariffs are actually going to land. But I think the reality is that this is a president right now that is emboldened by the experience that he's had. And this is a White House, Myron included, that feels like what they've gotten in the framework agreements, which are not trade agreements that you or I ever covered in Congress, that Mo had to defend or attack, that Governor Walker had to try and figure out on the state level that we've ever seen before. But they're the types of things that the president believes are genuine wins. And I think the concern is that maybe clouds judgment going forward as these things really start to bite.
I feel like I'm living in an alternative universe. I might be, but what I would say is that we haven't been living in Donald Trump's tariff world, because he kept on putting them on and taking them off. And the biggest trading partners of the United States, China, Mexico, and Canada, he simply punted on those. And even now, for example, when you look at Canada, most of Canadian goods are exempted because of the free trade agreement that he negotiated in his first term. So what we are actually seeing is not this massive wave of tariffs that he had been promising, but this more incremental, backwards and forwards, very destabilizing tariffs that I think got priced in by the markets, and I think we're still just has sort of delayed the effects of. So I don't know that I agree with the assessment that somehow this is a big win for the Trump administration.
All right, so we also are joined now by the host of Shark Tank and the chairman of O'Leary Ventures, Kevin O'Leary, who I think may be in his, did you guys say he's in his car? Yes, he's in his car. Hello. Sir, very grateful to have you on the show. Thank you for pulling over to spend some time with us. Tell us.
I just got this. I just want to tell you, I just got this car and I couldn't help myself. It's a 50th edition Porsche 911. I'm a huge Porsche collector. Just love it.
And so this is its inaugural appearance on television?
Well, I got to tell you, you press the turbo button, you leave your teeth behind in this.
Well, congratulations on the car. Tell us a little bit about what you think about the markets and what we've seen from the Trump administration so far. I mean, clearly, as has been pointed out on the panel, Canada is such a critical piece of this, and we've talked about this in the last couple of times you've been on with us. Is this where you expected us to be?
No, but, judging by what the world thinks, and the world can be monitored every day by the S&P 500 hitting new highs, they've come to the conclusion that although it's an erratic, volatile negotiation, one day it's 100%, one day it's 10%, whatever, that in the end, rational minds will prevail, and that there'll be some kind of reciprocal tariffs in the 10 to 15% range. I know you brought up Canada. That's a very good point. There is an existing agreement, and there are zero tariffs on the most important import to the U.S., and that's energy, and that's existed for quite a while. And so you start to think about fine-tuning. What about potash? What about steel? What about aluminum? These are critical elements for the U.S. economy, and those are not covered by the Canadian Free Trade Agreement. So there's a lot of pain coming there, and on with India and Switzerland, et cetera. And so, but I think basically you can be very critical of the administration because of the mixed signals, but the market isn't. And you have to use that as a metric. You have to look at it and say the money itself is not that worried.
Mo Elleithee, let me let you weigh in here because you haven't had a chance to yet. As someone who has been a critic of Republican policies over the long term, I don't know if you were as surprised as I am that this is what we're getting from Republican administration, but what do you make of it all?
Yeah, I think Lulu's exactly right that we haven't had to deal with this yet. We haven't felt the sting of these tariffs yet, and we're about to start. And there are some indicators that we can feel in our everyday lives. At the end of the day, we're seeing prices start to go up. I have less money in my wallet today than I did yesterday. The markets maybe not be blowing up, they're down, and they've down since Trump took office. I have less money in my retirement account today than I did yesterday. And I check my 401k balance fairly regularly.
It's your first mistake, Mo.
Right, yeah, seriously. I should wait till January 20th, 2029 to look again. But that is the reality for so many Americans. Some of these fights he's picking are not fights he had to pick, right? He's levying tariffs on nations that we have a trade surplus with in some cases. So I don't know that a lot of people fully appreciate or understand what the bluster is all about because it hasn't really taken effect yet. And for a guy who promised that he was going to make all of our lives easier economically once he was elected, for a lot of people, their lives are a little bit harder.
Kevin O'Leary, I want to give you the last word on this. And, I think to that big picture question, I hear what you're saying about the money and the markets and that's how you've oriented a lot of how you think about it, what you say. But Mo's point about how regular people feel, I mean, we are seeing a populist surge around the globe. In some ways, that's been a destabilizing force. And in many ways, tariffs are taxes on regular people, something that perhaps is going to exacerbate the growing divide between the haves and the have-nots worldwide. Does that concern you at all in a big picture way?
As you're sitting in your Porsche, I just want to say.
I was going to finish with that.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Listen, I'm an entrepreneur. And I want to make sure you understand. I started with nothing. I worked my tail off. The American dream's what got me in this Porsche. So I'm very, very thankful, and I want to pass it on, obviously. But having said that, I'm a policy guy. That's what matters to me. I look at policy. And, if you have tariffs in Europe against American products at 15%, just intuitively, what's wrong with applying the same on a reciprocal basis, which is actually what the market believes is going to happen. I don't see a problem there. And so I know that the thing that people have such a hard time with, and I'll give you an example, that meeting with Apple yesterday. Trump does not mind letting the cameras in watching sausage being made. So if you have a bad meeting with Trump, the market value of your company goes down. Look at what happened with Intel today when he took a shot at the CEO saying he wants him fired. Tim Cook goes in there with a couple of graphs. Nobody knows the real details. Billions are added to the market cap. So there's good meetings and bad meetings with Trump. This is an unusual administration, to say the least. I mean, that's the problem. No one's ever done it this way. It's hard to get used to. But again, just 88 days ago, 88 trading sessions, we were at a low on April 3rd. We made it all back. So something's working. I don't give credit to politicians. I give credit to policy. Something's working. I'm going to get in my Porsche and drive into the sunset now.